Hello, I'm Diana, part of the Capawesome team, and in this video I will show you how to use SQLite in a Capacitor application using the Capawesome plugin. We will go through installation, setup for both web and native, and build this app to create, update, delete, and read expenses. And everything will be stored in SQLite, of course. So along the way, we will see the most common APIs, like open, execute, query, beginTransaction, commitTransaction, and close. So for this demo, I wanted to build something you could actually reuse, not just as an example. So I created this app. I will leave the link for the repo so you can reuse it. I wanted to create it framework agnostic, but let's be real, without a framework, it's very difficult or cumbersome to create all the routing and all the logic behind the app. So I decided to create two examples, one with Angular, another one with React. And if you want a third one with Vue, just let me know in the comments. I will do my best. And I used Ionic for these beautiful UI components, mobile UI components. But all the logic that I want to show you related to how to use the SQLite plugin with Capacitor is framework agnostic. So let's start. We will be using the documentation for this Capacitor SQLite plugin. So I can show you how to install it, how to set up, and all the different APIs that you can use. So first, to install it, it's important to mention that this plugin is part of the Capawesome Insiders. So first we need to configure access to the private NPM registry using a license key. Once you have your license key, you need to run this to configure the registry. And then you will be able to install it by running npm install. And then this is optional if you want to support, if you want to have support also in web, we will use this Wasm plugin. Then, depending on the platform, there are different gotchas that you need to read if this is your case. For example, if you want to use encryption in Android, you need to add this. Please read this carefully because this does not apply to everyone, so I will not go into detail here, but just make sure to check these sections. Okay, so let's go to the code, my favorite part. So this is the Angular project I mentioned. You will be able to download this, it's open source. So the two main important files related to the plugin are these ones, two services, and then these are the pages to for the list, and for create and update is the same. These are only the two pages. So the first important thing you need to do is to open the database. So we added an initialize here, and we created this open database here. So if you are supporting the web platform, you need to call the initialize method with a web worker, with this configuration for the web worker. Everything is explained in the documentation, so feel free to check it out. And if you are working on Android or iOS, then you don't need to call this, because only if you want to pass any additional configuration, but if not, the plugin will automatically be initialized with the default settings. After initializing it, we will call the open method, and this will open the database, providing a path, a version, and an upgrade statement. If the database doesn't exist, it will create it, or it will run migrations if the version changes. In our app, we have two tables, as you can see, expenses and application logs. In expenses, we will be using this to create, read, update, and delete expenses. And the application logs, I created it to show you how to create transactions. So if you delete an expense, I will create a transaction with two operations, the delete of the expense and a log mentioning that the user deleted this expense with the date time. So the transaction will group both operations. If the transaction fails, you can do rollback of both operations, but let's see this in a while. After we have created our table, we need to use it, right? So let's see the operations we have. In the listing, we will use the query to read the existing expenses that we have. So let's see our method to query. First, I always added this method just to be safe, like to ensure the database is created and open. And then let's go to the list. And here, as you can see, when this page initializes, we will refresh the expenses. So we call this database service query with this typical SQL select. So select everything from our expenses table, and then we will map it to present it in the UI. So very simple, just the statement, and we will call this query with the database ID, which is the database that we have open. And this will return query result, which has rows and columns. So the columns are the names such as, I don't know, ID, amount, name, title, like all the titles from our table, and the values, and the rows are the values. So here we do this logic just to create the object that then we will have here and be able to create this UI with all the data from the SQLite. So that's for the query. Then when we want to go to the detail page, we will also use the query, but get expense by ID. So here, if we want to edit, and the only difference is that we are passing the ID as the value parameter. So cool. Now let's see how to create or update. It's the same operation. We are using the execute. So here we will insert or update. That's when, well, you know, updating or inserting here. So basically it's the same. You call this operation with all the data from the form that the user input in the form. The same for the update. And if we go to the execute method that we created in this database service, the execute with database ID, statement, and values. What else? We have the delete. We are using here a transaction. So let's see how we did it. As you can see in the other operation, it was just like the plain operation execute. And here in the delete, we first begin the transaction, then we group the operations that we want to do, which are like execute the delete and record the application log, which this is an insert into our application logs table. We grouped these two operations and we commit the transaction. If the transaction fails, we will enter this catch and we can do a rollback. So it's just another example I wanted to show you so you can see how to use the transactions also. So that was all the APIs I wanted to show you. Oh, also the close, sorry. It's very important that when you don't need the database anymore, you close it to free resources. So in this example, I just added the close in the destroy of the application, but depending on the logic of your app, you need to see where to put this close. So all changes are persisted locally in SQLite, and this gives you lots of opportunities. For example, if you are building an app and planning to store data locally, like for example, you could provide offline support. This is a solid starting point here. So I'm curious, what would you build on top of this? Offline first apps, sync with a backend, or something more advanced maybe? Let us know in the comments. How do you like this plugin? If you need more examples, you will find the full code and documentation link below. And also we have more guides. Let me show you here, showing how to use this plugin with different ORMs. So if this is your case, feel free to check it. So I hope this video was helpful. Please let us know if you have any questions. Bye.